Welcome
to the joy of coding.
Hello, and welcome to episode 408 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. It's so good to have you here. Gonna be live hacking on some Firefox stuff today. So excited for that. Let's get down to business. I'll start by sharing my screen as per usual. Yeah, this is the agenda. It's July 2nd, 2025, episode 408. A reminder, no plan survives breakfast. Today is no different than any other day where things could go horribly wrong with this stream. I might, I have an idea of something I want to do and things we could go over, but I might get sidelined. We might run out of ideas. We might have to improvise. That's okay. None of this stream has really been pre-planned or thought out beyond just the broad strokes. So we're just going to deal with it as it comes. That's the first thing. The second thing is that this agenda that we're looking at is something that you have access to. If you're watching this on Air Mozilla, check out the details section over there. If you're on YouTube, check out the video details, video description. If you're watching this on Twitch, check out the channel details. As the agenda updates, as I add things, as I change things, this little spinny will spin, and if you reload the agenda, or if you're watching this in the future, because this is the recording, then just the agenda should be up to date with anything I've changed. Let's get right into it. Hey, what's Bill and Ted? What are Bill and Ted doing here? I enjoyed those movies when I was younger, Bill and Ted, and I enjoyed the third one more recently. What are they doing here? Well, a friend, an old friend, my old grad supervisor actually, had this great idea, which is, hey, you're in the 400 series of, like, the 400s of your stream. This would be a good opportunity to kind of like go through the various HTTP status codes in the 400s to sort of like explain what they are. And there are like these like Keanu Reeves related memes related to the Keanu codes. Yeah, the Keanu codes for the different status codes. So we've already blasted past all of these. We're in episode 408 now, and that's request timeout, which is why we've got Keanu and Alex Winter here inside of the classic Bill and Ted phone booth, the time booth. So request timeout, what's that all about? Well, we can take a look on MDN. Also, RIP Glitch. This is being hosted on Glitch. This person, better pull their stuff off Glitch, because as I understand it, Glitch, a lot of these custom pages are going to go away. 408 request timeout. What is the 408 HTTP code? So this is a response sent whenever the server would like to shut down an unused connection because, there's been a request and it's like, hey, this request is just kind of lingering. I guess the thing that we're trying to give you, we haven't given it to you yet. There's just, there's some timeout going on here. Or maybe you've, in the request, maybe you've made it as part of the request. This is how long you're willing to wait. There are a couple of things that might cause this to occur, but basically this is how the server says, okay, error code, we've timed out here. We've spent too long trying to serve your request. So a server should send the connection close header field in the response, since 408 implies that the server has decided to close the connection rather than continue waiting. It is used much more since some browsers use HTTP pre-connection mechanisms to speed up surfing. Right, so that's interesting. I hadn't considered that, but like some browsers, including Firefox, will pre-connect to some server endpoints if they've used things like I think there are MDN meta. Let's see here. Meta. I think there's a way you can say like preload, module preload, rel preload. This is a way of saying like lets you declare fetch requests in maybe this is not it. Maybe what I'm thinking is like for anchor tags. Anchor, isn't there a thing that's like, hey, preload this thing? Preload, linked preloading Firefox. Rel preload, that's what we were just, or is it something else? Prefetch, maybe it's prefetch, preconnect. For link elements that the user is likely to need resources from the target resource's origin. can likely improve the user experience by preemptively initiating a connection to that origin. So it's possible that this is the sort of thing where like you might have this like dangling network connection, because even though it's likely that the user would need the resource, it turns out that the user follows some interaction path where that's not the case. Maybe that's, I'm just making stuff up here, but that sounds reasonable to me. And if that occurs, well, then the server might just go ahead and be like, okay, well, you know, you've been sitting here for, I don't know, some number of seconds, you've not actually requested a thing, or you've not actually, you know, there's no need for us to continue this. You've wedged your foot in the door. You've run out of time. So timeout. Request timeout. That's my interpretation here. Although it sounds like some servers will sometimes just shut down a connection without sending this message. Anyways, I'm going to make it a thing. For the remainder of the 400 series, or for the remainder of Keanu codes living on the internet, my plan is to hopefully introduce a new HTTP code each time. That will take us till at least, well, it's not necessarily a one-to-one mapping. We may exceed, you know, we might get into some episodes where there's not an associated Keanu code. But 511 will probably be the maximum. And we'll see what happens if and when this Keanu.codes gets shut down. I hope it doesn't. I hope it gets backed up. All right, so that's the Keanu code of the day. What are we doing today? Well, we had tinkered with this last week. There's one more thing I wanted to do, actually. Opera migration change. So we made a patch last week to fix the Opera migrator. If you weren't around, you can watch last week's episode about that. And we landed it, and it appears to have been verified as fixed. Opera is now listed when importing data, and the import works correctly. So we're going to go ahead and request uplift for this patch. So I'll go ahead and do that. You can watch me do this here. So view stack and Lando. I'm going to request uplift to Firefox Beta. Create an uplift request. And we'll go ahead and fill in the uplift form. So user impact if declined. Users will be unable to import from the Opera browser from modern versions of the Opera browser. Code covered in automated testing. No. Because that is a hard thing for us to test against, is the shifting, shifting, what other browsers do. We've got like scaffolding for like the classic Chromium profile directory, so that in the event that a profile directory exists, we can import from it. But we are not actually testing like installs of Opera. And so this is the sort of thing that we need to do manual testing for. Fix was verified in Nightly. Doesn't require a manual QE test? Probably a good idea. Install a modern version of Opera on Windows or Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, and ensure that profile data from that install can be imported into Firefox. Very low. Explanation of risk level. This is a very contained change to the Opera migrator, which isn't working in its current state because Opera changed how they store profile data. This change adapts us to the new storage location while also keeping us compatible with older versions of Opera. No string changes required. Is Android affected? No. So go ahead and request uplift, and we'll see. We'll see whether or not people are interested. That's the sort of call that release management will make on whether or not it's worth the risk. And we might have a conversation, but that's kind of how it works. I don't know if you knew that. We have a role at Mozilla. There's like a job called release management. And release management's whole job is to make sure that our releases get built on time, that the release notes are ready. You know, they deal with uplift requests. They look at the stability in our dashboards for things like, you know, a release. We'll look at the crash stats, and we'll look at performance stats, and like they're looking at all the health metrics to see whether or not they need to apply pressure on different teams to like fix certain things before they hit the release channel, etc., or if things need to get turned off, etc. And this has been a little bit of a rough one. This release 140, whatever is on release right now, 140. This has been a bit of a bumpy ride. So, my great respect, great empathy to our release managers who are having to deal with a fairly bumpy release. I mean, when a release is bumpy, and by bumpy, I mean we've had to ship a couple of dot releases because we have some surprises. Let's actually let me just quickly talk about that. Dot releases. Let's take a look at what train is it now. We can see that 140 is on release, and we can take a look here if we scroll down, if this page loads, is that we on June 26th, we shipped a .0.1 dot release. And then a day later, shipped a .0.2 dot release. And then yesterday, shipped a .0.3 dot release for Android. And we have a planned .0.4 desktop release on July 8th. Now, why was that so bumpy? Well, we got surprised by some stuff. At least 2 dot releases. That's right. Hello from Sweden. Hello. Hello from Canada, Sweden. Nice, Bitten. I think I've seen you in Matrix before. I hope you're well. I think I've seen you in some meetings. Nice to talk to you again. Yeah, so what happened for these 2 dot releases? Well, we can... Oh, and Smurf D says hello from Sweden too. I didn't realize most of... 2 of my viewers are in Sweden. I know very little about the demographics, like geographical demographics of my viewer base. If you're in the chat, shout out roughly where in the world you are, because I don't know. I know some of you speak German. I know that much, but that could be anyone. That could be anywhere. Lots of people speak German, not just people in Germany. So, someone's in Portugal. Okay, let's see if who's the furthest. Who's the furthest from me? Sweden, Portugal, UK. Keep throwing stuff in, and we'll see if we can. Canada. Pretty big country, but I get it, Craig. We're keeping we're keeping the bag pretty big there. Finland, oh yeah, lots of people shouting in interested. So Finland and Sweden. So we got some sort of Scandinavian style representation here. We got Portugal, and my geography is pretty bad, but my understanding is like the southwest of Europe. We got a Canadian. We've got some UK. That's great. Okay, well, keep shouting them out. I'm going to briefly talk through some of these dot releases and what happened here. So, release notes. If you take a look at the release notes for Firefox 140, you can see that, hey, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, June 24th, this was the planned release. This is the .0.0. Oh, and Craig's in Ontario, Ottawa. Very good. So you're about 6 hours away from me, because I'm in Toronto. So you're probably the closest, Craig. Vertical tabs. We talk about some changes there, and hey, you can create space and stuff. There are all these fun things. That this was the planned release, and then we do a controlled rollout. We don't just tell everyone, okay, we don't just instruct all the clients, download the update all at once. We do what's called a controlled rollout, where we kind of probabilistically randomly update people. The way that works, some lunch there. Firefox will periodically ask our update server, codenamed Balrog, for updates. It's do you have any updates for me? Do you have any updates for me? And we use, Balrog uses basically a dice roll for every update request from a client. And so if we do something like a 25% rollout, then what that means is every time your client asks for an update, you get a dice roll, and you've got a 1 in 4 chance of actually receiving an update. The rest of the time, it's okay, no update is ready. Now that's on background update requests, because there's also the ability for users to just check for updates on their own if they open up About Firefox. That will, if there's an update, regardless of the rollout, it's okay, a user is looking for an update, we'll just give it to them. We'll go ahead and get it to you. But so that allows us to kind of throttle releases going out there. We don't want to send it out to the whole world all at once, because sometimes we detect problems. And that's what happened when 140 went out the door. And what did we detect? Well, we detected two things. The first thing was that there were users with certain themes installed that used the classic sidebar panes that noticed when dark themes were installed, certain dark themes, not the built-in dark theme, but like third-party dark themes were installed that were missing a certain rule, because it wasn't every dark theme. I think they had to be missing a certain rule. Then it would sort of break the appearance of the sidebar, which is bad. And so that was the first thing we noticed, and I believe that got fixed in .0.1. Whoops. How do I .0.1 release notes? There it is. So it fixed text contrast issues in the sidebar with some dark themes. That was bug 1971487. So that's one we detected. But not long after we detected that one, people reporting that, is we were getting reports that people were seeing startup crashes. That's really bad. You know, like that's the browser, you can't even use it in certain situations because, you know, the browser's just crashing as soon as you start it up. Like, what are you supposed to do about that? And the only reason, like, we did not detect this on the beta or nightly channels. No one, it wasn't reported. We didn't get a sense of it. And so the reason why we were crashing was actually because of third-party DLL injection. Let me just see whether or not this is something that I can show you. Is this a security bug? No, it is not. Okay. So it was a crash in a particular DLL. This isn't one we ship, I don't think, in Firefox, but it is one that maybe FF relates to it. There's a crash in a DLL. So probably some third party is like hooking into our process and causing us to crash. Like, there's a bunch of stuff going on. We see this crash stack where like Zool.dll, that's us. That ships with Firefox, and that's like calling in through this stuff. This is this DLL ships with Windows, and we're calling. It calls back into us to do some stuff. We're doing something with the file system. I don't know, and then we're crashing here at some memory address, and we don't have symbols for it, so we can't like resolve this address to anything in particular. And it's possible that this is like not even a valid address anyways if we're crashing. And I don't even know what this DLL is all about, but I think did we find out where this was from? Is it from the Samsung SDS Nazca? I don't know what that is. Oh, FF64 is definitely published by Jiangsu Agile Technology, and my guess is that it's Agile FD. I don't know what that is. Let's take a quick peek at the sales pitch. Oh boy! All right, let's HTTP only. Good idea. Agile Data Guard. So it's some kind of security software that's hooking into Firefox. And there's presumably some kind of browser integration. They're using like DLL injection. And, you know, that's a pretty brittle. It's pretty brittle. And we just didn't know about it. We didn't notice it. And then people started reporting it. It started to show up in crash stats. And so that's when we were able to like go, oh snap, we gotta fix this crash. And I'm trying to see here what we did. Someone filed an upstream GitHub issue related. The GitHub issue was filed against the Rust programming language, which is interesting. The regressor was backed out of the release channel. The regressor. So we changed how. Oh, I see. So we changed how this third-party library was talking to us, and that caused the crash. And so this is the sort of the issue, and it's possible that how Rust works, like this is a bug being caused by the Rust language. I have no idea. But if you're curious, this is the conversation that's happening, and it's in bug 1973947. So I'll put a link to that. This is the crashing bug. So those were both fixed in .0.1. The regressor is a good name for a band. I agree. Has anyone done any math to see who's the furthest away from me if I'm in Toronto? What's farther? I'm gonna guess it's gonna be either Sweden or Finland. That's my guess in terms of like for the areas that were listed in the chat. The furthest, like as the crow flies from Toronto, I'm gonna guess it's Finland or Sweden, but I don't know which one. But if anyone wants to run the numbers. Okay, so then that got fixed, and that was .0.1. And then another release had to go out because of a startup crash. There was a startup crash that we also started noticing. And this was one that apparently had also been affecting Chrome. And let me see if this is another one that I can open up publicly. Is it a security bug? It is not. Okay. So, crash and cancel IOX. And crash report. Oh, sorry. This is not related to Chrome or Microsoft. This is something else entirely. Once again, another piece of security software. Oh no, exploit protection of Windows security. Yeah, in the Windows Start menu type, exploit protection, yada yada yada. So there was some kind of startup crash related to how security protection, some security system works on Windows. Exploit protection. And I guess maybe that is just something that we hadn't tested. Maybe our QA people. I'm noticing some security bugs that are, like this one is a security bug. I'm not going to click on it, but this is probably, this was the regressive. The reason I know it's a security bug is because I'm not seeing the description here. But presumably that's related to what happened here. And anyway, then we shipped an update. And then that was Firefox 140.0.2. And then Android got one, 140.0.3. I'm pretty sure. Did we do some kind of release? For Android, it would have been for Android. 140.0.3. Yes. Fixed an issue with picture-in-picture not working on YouTube, and fixed an issue with links intended to open other apps. So there was some like new issues that were discovered, and we fixed them. Finland is to the right of Sweden if you're using the Mercator protection. So Finland. Okay, Finland sounds like the Munch. If I travel west, it would probably be Ottawa. It would be Craig. He would be the furthest if I took the longest possible path and traveled west. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so then we fixed these things for Android, and now we've got another one probably coming in a week, but that's the planned dot release, because every release now has a planned dot release, and that will happen on July 8th. And that's for any sort of like, hey, we noticed some stuff that could probably ride to the dot release that we think is low risk. And that'll go out next week. And that should go to like 100% rollout, presumably. And then everyone gets 140. And then at some point the ESR goes out. When does the 140 ESR go out? Yeah, it's out on June 24th. The latest 140 ESR is out there. So, some of those dot release things, I don't know if any of them get uplifted to the ESR, but they might. Okay, well that's a lot of chat. That's a lot of talking about dot releases. This is the crashing bug for the first crash. Lots of crashers to fix this release cycle. So it was a bumpy ride, and our release managers, they're the ones who are like in charge of getting things out there. They're not responsible for the actual code being written, but they're responsible for making sure that the releases get out there and that they've had an eye on things like the security and stability and performance of these releases. And this is a case where it's like, hey, we need to get some people using Nightly in beta who are using more varieties of hardware. We need to get make sure our QA team has like a bunch of different security software installed so that we can detect these kinds of configurations in the wild. I think for all their flaws, Apple has one primary advantage for things like this. Well, it's interesting because it's like there's an advantage but a disadvantage, where Apple, you kind of have this like monoculture in terms of like the operating system is produced by the same people who produce the hardware, and a lot of the libraries are also produced by that same company. And so there's this like tight vertical integration. Whereas with Windows and especially with Linux, you've got this like very varied ecosystem with lots of different providers of the bits and pieces in the software. And the drawback is, like, I think when you've got such variety, you have to grapple with compatibility, a lot of compatibility. And I suspect that that's less of an issue. This is my hypothesis. I think it's less of an issue in Apple. Certainly, I don't think we tend to see these kinds of like DLL and like security software crash things on Mac OS. I think we more tend to see them on Windows. Bitten writes, the odd one out that uses beta is I help out with the Swedish translation. Well, thank you very much, Bitten. But you use Arch Linux, so not much security software. Well, I mean, Arch Linux, you're camouflaging yourself from attackers anyways. You know, it's a security by obscurity. That's going to be my joke. All right, let's get to actual work. I burned like a good 30 minutes just kind of talking about release stuff, but hopefully that was interesting. What I was hoping we could get to is we could talk a little bit about the background images again. So I think it was 2 episodes back where I was no, it's 3. It was back on June 11th. We were talking about background images and various issues related to animated background images. So what I was focused on was the fact that like background images continue to kind of play whenever new tabs are open in the background. And that's bad for resource usage, because we're drawing frames when the user's not actually seeing stuff. It's wasteful of resources. And so is there a way that we can disable that animation while the new tab's in the background? And the answer was yes. We found a way to do that, and that's good. But another somewhat related bug was surfaced the other day, and I was hoping we could take a look at this because it's in the same realm. And it's possible we could try and fix both, either in the same patch or like in the same stack of patches, because they're both background related, and it's about resource usage. But instead of CPU, this is about memory usage. So here's the bug. It was filed 2 days ago. Setting a large GIF as the background image on new tab, and then opening 6 to 7 new tabs will explosively lead to an out of memory. So Mayank Bansal, who is one of our prolific sort of contributor in bugs and helps out a lot, says, here's a GIF image. Create a new profile. Set the downloaded GIF as the background. I'm actually very curious to know what this GIF image is. Woo! How big is that image? How big is this image? Because that doesn't seem like too many frames. It's 14.2 megs. This is 14.2 megs. That is poorly compressed. This is a black and white image. Who's compressed this? But okay. Maybe it's completely uncompressed. That is wild. I don't care how many frames you have. Like, how many frames do you think that is? That's like 1, 2. Like, this is a sort of an illusion, in that it seems like there's this thing rotating, but it's really just there. That's the animation, and then it like loops. Like start, end. Or start, end. That is the loop. And so how many frames could that be? Maybe if that's animating at 60 frames per second, maybe it's 60 frames. Let's say it's 80 frames. Let's say we've got 80 frames in this GIF. And what are the dimensions? Inspect the image. 967 by 554. Okay, so like, let's say 1,000 by 600. So 600,000 pixels. And then 600,000 pixels. They're all black and white. There's no way. Like, how? I am so curious about this compressed. Like, what is the compression scheme that's being used? My guess, no compression. My guess is there's no compression here. Anyways, so you take that GIF, you set as the background, you open 8 to 9 new tabs, and then you watch the memory in Windows Task Manager just explode out. And then there's a video here. Let's take a look at the video. This is great. I love bugs like this where a user is providing so much. They provided the image. They're providing exact steps for reproducing. That is slow frame rate. That is a surprisingly slow frame rate. And then they open up a bunch of tabs. And then we're watching the memory just kind of like blow out. Did they close Firefox on their own there? And then they close Firefox on their own. So it doesn't crash with an out of memory, but it could have crashed with an out of memory because memory was really starting to skyrocket there. Where did it get to? 11.5 gigs. Woo! It's getting busy. Okay. From the memory report, it looks like each About New Tab page is getting its own copy of the GIF via a different blob URI. Do we know what this reason About New Tab does that instead of using the same image? Even in the case of a non-animated image being used, there could be beneficial to only use one copy of the image so that we can at least avoid decoding the same image multiple times. There's probably other overhead happening elsewhere. Thanks for the info. Question directed to whoever maybe answer at some point in the future. Would it be possible to not create a new blob URI for each document, instead use the same URI, even if this means it's not a blob, for the background image? That would mean we could avoid redecoding it and using more memory for copies of the decoded image. Okay, that's interesting. So I think I should take some responsibility here. I'm going to take some accountability because I was the one who guided the team towards using a blob URL per document because of I misunderstood how this worked. I thought that if you have something like an image and you have a single image blob, then if you create an object URL, you're just creating a reference. I thought the references were cheap references. This is apparently not true. And each time you create an object URL, and in retrospect, that makes a lot of sense because the blob isn't an image, it's just bytes. There's still a decoding that needs to happen of those bytes, and that happens in memory. So is it possible for us to create the object URL once in the parent process? And if so, is it possible for the new tab page to use that object URL that instead of creating its own? That is the question. That is the question. Because if so, then we just have the one shared, not just the one shared blob, we've got the one shared object URL. At that point, we wouldn't even need to throw the blob into the state object. Okay. So if we can do that, that could, in theory, save us on our memory usage for multiple tabs. Let's see if we can prototype that out. We're only going to need an artifact build for this. So let's get an artifact build going. Let's actually get the most recent stuff. And we'll make sure we're using artifact and we'll build. Okay. And now we need to find the bits and pieces inside of the new tab code that govern this blob and modify it so that it creates the object URL. And I believe this is in something called wallpaper feed. Let's see here. Wallpaper feed. This is choosing the wallpapers from the built-in ones, and then wallpaper upload. So we receive a file, we do all this stuff, we get the array buffer. We're going to basically copy the file into we copy the file here, and then we dispatch this, and we actually pass the file data, and then on load, wallpaper UUID, update wallpapers, we get the UUID. If it exists, we'll get the file, and here is where we'll go ahead and send down the data URI. Okay. 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 So here's what I'm thinking we can do. First of all, let's reproduce the issue. That's the first step. So we've got our image downloaded, right? Default3.gif, very big pixel art. We'll go ahead and customize, upload an image. Do I have, yeah, there it is. Man, low frame rate. And we'll go ahead and let's open up about memory. Measure. Privileged about. We're already using, yeah, like images is pretty big. Let's open up a few more. Let's measure again. Yeah, images. Over 5 gigs at this point. This is a wild GIF. But okay, we can do better. So we've reproduced the issue. And what's more, we are now set up with this expensive thing, and we are gonna now change the code to deal with it. So what I'm thinking of doing is I'm gonna update the wallpaper feed to have a background, custom background object URL equals null. And what we'll do if this dot custom background object URL, we will URL dot revoke object URL. This dot custom background object URL equals null. Otherwise, we'll create that file. So we've got a file. Can we get the blob for it? Or do we create object URL? What will it? You can do it for a file. Oh, that's good. Oh, good. Okay, so this dot custom background object URL equals URL dot create object URL passable file. So passable file is probably it's called image file now. What's this called? Test file, image file. Okay, and then we're going to pass in the URL now. And same thing goes when we create one of these things. Upload. So instead of passing in the data, pretty sure now we can react to that inside of uploaded wallpaper. Okay. Uploaded wallpaper. So inside of the base.jsx, base.jsx, after the reduction has occurred, uploaded wallpaper, instead of here, doing the revoking of the object URL, we're not going to manage that anymore. The uploaded wallpaper URL is now just going to be uploaded wallpaper. So this is just a shortcut, so I don't have to change other stuff. All right, let's see if that works. So the first thing I need to do is I need to npm run bundle prefix browser extensions new tab. Build faster. And run. Okay, so we're able to access that URL. That's very interesting. So the body, the background is this same blob. Now, if this is working, I would expect this URL to be shared. So F46F1695. F46F1695. Okay, good. That's very good. So we're using the same blob URL. And so now I expect that our memory usage might not be amazing because that's a massive image. 1829. But let's now open up a bunch. We're all using it. We'll go ahead and measure. Well, it's still a lot. Still a lot. Uncached progress. What happens if I minimize memory usage and measure? Oh yeah, it comes down after I garbage collect. That's good. That's very good. That's very good. Oh. It garbage collects because the tabs are not... Oh, that's interesting. And so then whenever the frames come back, it becomes expensive again. But presumably if we start hitting like a memory threshold, like let's open up a bunch of these. I would expect some earlier ones to get unloaded. Like this one, yeah. It gets unloaded and then it comes back. And now I bet this one's unloaded too. Oh, no, it wasn't. But this one was. It's interesting. So then measure. So that's still using a lot, but it's come down, I think. I think it's got like a limit. And presumably if we minimize memory usage, like the GC kicks in, because my machine here is kind of beefy. People are saying I didn't garbage collect the first run. Okay, so let's do that. Let's revert my patch and garbage collect the first run so that we can sort of compare and contrast. So that's interesting. So these still a little bit expensive. Let's wait a few more minutes. Memory, flush, flush, flush. Measure. Okay, so it stays down by about 1 gigabyte. It's keeping some of them in memory, I think, still. Let's go ahead and revert my patch. Or what I'll do is I'll say like background. Use parent process object URL instead of per document. That's what I'll call it. And then let's revert it. Or I'll just go back to main at origin. We'll build. Okay, now let's open up about memory. Measure. We've already got a lot, so we're going to open up a bunch of tabs. Let's measure. Let's open up even more. Measure. So some economizing, but let's see now what happens if I minimize memory usage. As I recall, we got down to about just 1.4 gigs, something like that, after the patch. So that's interesting. It's like similar results. Similar results. It's a little bit higher here, but minimize, flush. I think we get slightly better memory savings by having the shared blob URL or object URL, because we're not sharing the same object URL now, right? Like we've got, each one should have a different one. 9B76 08D, yeah, DE. Okay, so let's load each one of these up. Yeah, 6 gigs, minimize, back to 2.1. So it seems like that's kind of like our base amount. 1.4 gigs with patch, 2.1 without patch, something like that. I agree. That seems to be about right. And I wonder if we can do better if we stop the animation from occurring. I don't know. Would that allow us to, like, I wonder if the platform would save memory by not decoding the other frames and holding them in memory. How did we do that last time? We had like a kind of a speculative patch. JJ new KXP. It was something about like I image Moz I, or was it image I loader request tools container. Something here about like animate. Yeah, don't animate mode, and then we set, let's reset animation. Reset animation. What does it do? Oh, it starts us from the beginning again. But if animation mode, okay, so that's not what we want. We want to change the mode. Okay. The way we did that. How do we do that? Image I container. We got How did we do that? How did we get the background images animation mode? How do we get the container? Image is, you get the image element, you get a special wrapper, and then get request. Current request image. How do you get the container? Image container. How did we do it? Like, now I want to like go watch the old recording. How did we do it? June 11th. I don't think I posted the patch anywhere. I don't know where it is. Right. So this was episode 405. Let's dig it up. Where do I find the recording? Where's the agenda? Where's the episode guide? 405. Oh, I need to update the episode guide. Maybe 405. Yes, Smurf D. Yes. Smurf D. Episode 405. Is it YouTube. Search with YouTube. Joy of Coding, episode 405. Here it is. Okay, I'm going to mute, and we're just going to leaf around. We're going to look for... I remember we spent a bunch of time like looking for an appropriate like image. We did some filter adult stuff. I talked a little bit about background images, and then what did I do? Let's see if we get to an editor. Or maybe it was I was working in the browser console. We spent a lot of time trying to find an image. Here. Here, that's what I was doing. Okay, I need to do like precise scrubbing now. Where was I in my editor? Here. Here. What did I do? I'm talking. Come on, Mike. All right, I looked at a preference. Geez, this guy does talk a lot. You are absolutely right. Oh, well, I was showing off the original optimization. That's what I was doing. And then at some point I got to refresh driver, frame rate, suppressing animations. We got to DOM window utils. And eventually I got to image animation mode. Okay, this is the part that I care about. So how did I do it? What did I do? Tab, content, document, body, window utils. Oh, so something off of window utils maybe. Image animation mode. So it's something off of window utils in image animation mode. Okay. So maybe if under about new tab child, handle load, content window. This.content window. Window utils. Did I do something like that? What did I do? I wrote a patch at some point. What did it look like? I did it, yeah, about new tab child. What did I do? What did I do? Content window. It's like rewatching this.content window utils. Yes. Window utils image animation mode. Image animation mode equals I'm repeating myself. ci dot image I container dot k normal anim mode, and then up here when we load the content, excuse me, we say no, don't anim mode, don't anim mode. All right, let's see what savings that gets us. Because maybe we can combine these. So it animates. And that one's also animating. Now, how do I tell if here? I want to double check that I've done the right job here. We're going to use multi-process browser console. We're going to get access to the privileged about content process. We're going to say tabs 0 content window utils image animation mode 0. No. This is not working the way I expected. Did I not build? Animation mode normal. If document is visible, page show. Don't anim mode. Dump hiding animation. Yeah, let's also put that in. These are, am I hiding the animations? Oh, I'm not hiding them on tab switch though. That's important. So it's only when they're first loaded do I, okay, that's interesting. So when they're backgrounded, if event type visibility change, on load, you know what? I can actually just move this down because visibility change will, or page show will always fire, I think. If document is visible and if this document visibility state is not equal to visible, don't anim mode, else. Okay. So we've got our thing. The performance is not great. Okay, measure. 4.2 gigs. Measure and save. Oh, no, measure and save. Minimize memory usage. Do it again. Now measure. 1.8. So it's about the same. Maybe even a little. It's in the same ballpark when we have the patch applied, even if we stop the animations. So we're like maybe reducing some of the CPU usage. Like, where's the task manager? About pages. We're kind of at this, we kind of hover in the low percentage points for CPU usage. It's kind of background stuff. So what happens if we get rid of this rule? They're all chugging. Got a bunch of them. Let's get a bunch of them going. So now we're cooking. Okay, yeah. Yeah, look at that. Woo! That's a lot of CPU. That's the majority of the CPU. So our optimization helps out a ton. A ton. So I think it's worth pursuing. Okay. So I think here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna write up a comment because my role on the new tab team is I'm the principal engineer on the team. And so there's a whole bunch of front-end engineers who, this is a good growth opportunity. Just download more CPUs. This is a good growth opportunity for me to like, for one of our front-end engineers to sort of like take the ball and craft the solution as they think is appropriate. Like I have found the possibility of an optimization here. Two optimizations, the memory one and the CPU one. They're two separate bugs. I think they're very much related. I will flat out admit, we did not expect people to use gigantic animated GIFs as their background images. That was not what we thought would happen. We should have assumed it would happen. Animated GIFs are here to stay. Or APNGs. They're here to stay. So there is what happens actually, now that I think about it, what happens if I go to about memory and I GC? What happens to the process time? It's still high. It's still really high. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure we associate a new bug. Continuous memory with at least one visible and one occluded window. I'm going to open I'm gonna move this to Firefox, new tab. New tab. That's the first thing. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clone this bug in this component. Animated new tab background images consume CPU even when not in the foreground. Steps to reproduce. Set download. This will be a great GIF image. Download this test image download this GIF image. In a new profile, set that image as the background, as the custom background. Open several new tabs. Visit About Processes. Is that About Processes? Yeah. Visit About Processes and look at the CPU usage of what is the name of the it's just About Pages. Pages. Expected results. When new tab is backgrounded, we should try to avoid consuming any CPU except to prepare the next new tab opening. Actual results. It appears that the images that are animating are still causing the CPU to be consumed. We might be able to easily solve this by setting the what was the property? Setting animation mode, image animation mode on the content area to on the document to K don't animate when in the background, and then set it to K normal animation mode when foregrounded. Okay, and I'm going to associate that just as a C also with this other. Okay, this is a defect. And I'm gonna set the performance impact to question mark. Okay. I took a look at this briefly today, and it looks like it should be fairly trivial to have wallpaper feed be the component responsible for creating the object URL. We can the wallpaper feed should cache this, should hold a reference to this URL so that it can revoke object URL if the wallpaper ever changes. But once we have that object URL, we can send that down to the individual new tab instances and have them set that URL as the background image directly rather than constructing the object URL first. I'll post a sketch patch shortly. Submit only my new comment. So let's revert the CPU change thing. Don't need that. We're just going to take JJ show KXP. So JJ describe KXP, and I'll say bug such and such. bug such and such whip. And then JJ bookmark create KXP wallpaper fix. So we're going to create a bookmark there because for now that's how we have to. This is how we do MozFab stuff. We have to go back into Git mode, and I'm going to say MozFab submit single wallpaper fix, and then the other argument is whip. And how do I make it so I don't take... I don't want to be assigned the bug. I don't think I can do that. I think it's going to automatically assign it to me, and that's maybe okay. I'm going to unassign myself, though. Some point, will it assign me? No, thank goodness it didn't assign me. Okay, and then I'm gonna message these two and let them know, like, hey, I got a starting point for you. Why don't you sort of figure it out? APNG, writes Danny Colin. Isn't that Mozilla's fault? Lol. It was our idea, I think. APNG. I think there was actually a recent blog post about this somewhere. PNG standard. Or PNG new standard or thing. New version of PNG image standard released. This was 6 days ago. PNG is back. PNG is back. And you can see in here that there's some talk about APNG, which was proposed by Mozilla quite some time ago. And we added support to Firefox, which remains to this day, but other programs hesitate to adopt them. Let's see, APNG format. APNG. Who's responsible for this? Vlad. It was Vlad Vukicevic. I never knew how to pronounce his last name. But Vlad. And Stuart Parmenter. I've met both of these people. Long since they are no longer, I don't think, involved in the project in many ways. They're still friends of the project, but they've moved on to other things. But yeah, scrap support for MNG, which was for multiple image, it's back in the day in 2003. Yeah, I actually remember who did the original implementation of APNG because I think I went to grad school with him. What's his name? Andrew Scott? Not Andrew Scott, not the actor. Andrew, APNG, animated GIF, Mozilla. I remember ad support. Andrew Smith. I went to grad school with this fellow. And he's the one who did the original implementation 18 years ago. Hooah! Right in the age. Right in my guts because of my age. Ugh. Anyway, fun times. Fun times. But yeah, I went to school with this fella. Cool. Well, with that having been said, I'm also going to post, what was it? These changes. JJ diff. Commit bug such and such. Stop animations on new tab unless foregrounded. JJ rebase RSZ onto main at origin. And JJ bookmark, create our SZ. We're going to call it no wallpaper, no anim. Git checkout wallpaper, no anim. Moz fab submit single wallpaper, no anim whip. Missing bug ID. Oh, sorry. It should have been. Oh, geez. JJ bookmark delete wallpaper, no anim. It should have been create not SZ. It's KP MXP. That's the one. MXP. Isn't that the name of a MXP game show? Most Extreme Elimination Challenge was MXC. Okay. One of these days. All right. Git checkout wallpaper, no anim. And we'll go ahead and submit that as a whip. And with that, I think we're pretty much done. I think this episode, we've got 2 sort of like speculative patches posted. I am going to, I've highlighted the first one, and hopefully Amy or Nathan can take the ball with that. And then for this other one, I've got this like speculative one. I'm gonna write, this is fairly speculative, but certainly seems to drop the CPU usage way down when I have many tabs open. What this doesn't account for, doesn't cover the preloaded new tab case, since that new tab thinks it's visible. It is visible. We may have reached the point where, if that is something we also want to solve, we may have reached the point where we accept the patch in, where is it? Patch in bug such and such, which makes the preloaded new tab not think it is visible. Submit. Okay. And with that, I think I'm, dang, 110 need info. Yeah, I need to declare some need info bankruptcy. A lot of those are from years ago that I need to just kind of go through. Someday. I'm going to call it there. Hey, thanks so much for watching episode 408 of The Joy of Coding, brought to you by the status code 408 for connection timeout. You can use Keanu codes to learn more about the various HTTP codes that are out there and what they mean. Thanks for watching. Hey, let me know what you thought of this episode. There's a link in the agenda, as usual, to rate this episode. I'll put a link here in the chat. Link to rate this episode. Special shout out to, depending on which direction you travel, let's see here. Special shout out to who mentioned the distance? Finland. Special shout out to Finland for being the furthest away from me in terms of the various regions and countries that were mentioned in the chat. Or if you're flying in the other direction, Ottawa for being the furthest away from me as the crow flies. And with that, we'll call it there. Thanks again for watching. We'll hopefully see you next week. Take care, everybody. Have yourselves a great week. Bye-bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.